All right, class. Well, here we go. Week 6. Believe it or not, this is crazy. We are 3 weeks out from the end of the term. We've covered a lot. We've covered a lot. And I just want to thank you for that. I really enjoyed reading with you. I really enjoyed hearing from you. I will tell you, I've really enjoyed getting emails from you. You reaching out, asking questions. I hope that you've had a good time so far working in your groups on this final project that we're working on. I mean, lots of great things have been taking place. And this content, man, this content is so important. I don't know if I can stress enough how important this content is. It is so vital. Because I think it affects us in ways that we may not fully grasp at this point. Even that article, hopefully you saw the email I sent earlier this morning with the article from the individual that works for LinkedIn. And he talked about how career development, or the lack thereof, is the number one reason people leave their jobs. And I think that's right. Organizations are just doing a lousy job. So it shouldn't be that hard for you to find examples of career development done poorly in organizations. But what if we did it better? What if we did it right? What if we did it well and we actually took care of people and helped them along the way? How meaningful, how purposeful, how just brilliant, and how huge would that be? What if we really invested in people? You've probably seen the thing that's floating around LinkedIn for a while, and it said the CEO was talking to the CFO, and I think the question was something along the lines of, what if we invest in our people and they end up leaving? That's a good question. What if you spend money on somebody and they end up leaving? What if you invest in their education? Or you send them to multiple conferences a year and you really help them with their professional and career development, and then they leave? What happens? Well, the question that the CFO asked in return to the CEO, or vice versa, one of the two, was, well, what happens if we don't invest in our people and they stay? That's a good question, right? This is the age-old question that's going on in career development, in the workforce, in the workspace. It has been for years. How do we take care of our people? How do we take care of them well? And I would think that if we can do a really good job combining career development, as we've done little bits and pieces here and there throughout this course, combining that with this idea of vocation and calling, and we don't see them as two separate kind of dualistic or dueling things, but we see them as one and the same, or at least part and parcel, or at least complementary. How significant of an impact would that have on not only ourselves personally, but on our workforces, on the places that we work? I think it would have a significant impact. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story. I may have mentioned this individual. I had him in a face-to-face version of this class years ago. Great student, older student, sat in the back, and really enjoyed him. He always had great, very insightful things to say. What was so interesting is his industry was more of the heads-down cubicle, stereotypical, of course, heads-down cubicle, kind of more introverted, computer information systems technology type role, right? So a lot of coding, different things, not a lot of interaction. In fact, he admitted that he was kind of this, a bit of an outlier, in that he was great at talking to people and also great at his job, which is why he had been, promoted and moved up, and he had been given loftier positions, was in management and so forth. And he deserved to be. He was excellent. He was awesome. He was great. And I remember even through all of that, though, he got done reading the Gift of Being Yourself. And this is probably a couple weeks after, maybe even a week after we had written our paper, and he comes back to class and he goes, Professor Boyan, why did I not know about this? He said, I wish somebody had given this book to me when I was 21 years old. How differently I would have lived my life. How it would have affected me in significant ways to have done things differently than how I did along the way throughout my career. And this is a seasoned veteran, lots and lots of experience. I mean, an incredible individual, had done so many things and invested in so many people and was a great mentor and all that. And yet still he's saying, I wish I had known about these concepts early, because it would have helped him from a personal kind of standpoint to work better, to lead better, to invest better, and so forth. And I got an email, I think it was about a year ago, maybe about a year and a half ago, and the news was shared that this individual had died at a very, for all intents and purposes, very young age. And of course, we were sad, and there was mourning and grief that we're walking through. But as I think about even that now, this individual that was in class asking great questions, saying, I wish I had known about this content, this ideas, this framework earlier, these theoretical ideas and questions to ask earlier. In fact, he said, I've been giving this book out to all sorts of people. I bought copies and just, hey, or telling people, you got to read this book, you got to get this book, you got to check this out better. It's amazing. It's going to just radically change the way you think about things. And then he dies. And I wonder what would have happened. Now, of course, the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, we can't go back and change the past. Let's not even try. But I think for the sake of asking the question, I do wonder what would have happened, what would have been done differently if he had been given that book, or at least those concepts. And some can make the argument that the ideas are not original to Benner, so he could have found them. But what Benner has done, and every author does, is they bring things together. They, as I've mentioned before, they bring these ideas, these concepts, these theories that are available to the masses. They make them bite-sized, palatable, and then they share them. They broker, right? They're this information broker, this intellectual middle person. They share the information for people to read like us in class in small bite-sized ways. But would he have lived a different life, right? Would his, we're talking in a different class on teaching, would his eulogy have been different? One of the assignments we looked at in that class is your resume versus your eulogy. Which one are you living for? I just was talking with a friend today, and he went on a great 10-day European vacation, maybe even 2 weeks with his wife. And he came back, and he said, I came back to immediately leave LAX, flew in LAX, got in my car, and drove to my grandma's viewing. She had died when I was gone. He was talking about things that were said the next day at the funeral, and he said it wasn't just like, oh, she was a nice person. It was like the things that were deeply meaningful that stood out to people. It was very clear of who she was and whose she was and what she lived for, and really who she lived for. And it wasn't herself. It was for her Father, for God. And those are the things that people remembered about her. She wasn't living for her resume. She was living for her eulogy. She was living for how was she going to be remembered. And it wasn't all about her. It was about where was she pointing people. And so as I think about this individual, I do wonder, would his life have been different had he had perhaps these ideas and these thoughts, these frameworks, right? The questions were being asked. Had they been made available to him at an earlier age, would he have chosen to live his life differently? I would like to think that yes, he would have. And I hope that for all of you in this class, you will take the content that we've looked at and that you will live differently. And that you will be able to kind of work through the fact that there's just a lot of content. I get it. There's a ton of stuff that we've got going on, right? There's assignments. You've got your Keller paper due. You've got all these different things that you're working on. You've got a Bridges book review next week. You've got a vocational profiling plan due the following week. You've got your organizational career development group projects due week 8. Your career anchors assessment is due next week. All these different things. We have these conversations. We've got this conclusion of Keller and vocational psychology and videos to watch and readings, all these different things. But none of this is busy work. Not a single iota of this class. As I develop the course, nothing is wasted. Because it's all working together to formulate some ideas that hopefully will help for you to live and work and lead differently. I think that's why this is such a crucial class to me, is because these ideas, they aren't just like these foo-foo ideas. These are foundational theoretical frameworks that if you think these ways, they will affect the way that you act and you live and you talk and you love and you speak and you lead, and you will in turn affect and infect people for the good, right? For the common good, positively. You will help other people, I believe, to lead better lives, to thrive, to flourish in many ways. That's the goal. And I think that, again, if you can understand who you are and whose you are and why you're doing what you're doing, it's not just for your resume or your paycheck. It injects new meaning into the work that you're doing. I hope that you have found that in this class. So yes, we have a lot that we're doing, a lot that we're covering, but you're doing a great job. I'm loving what's happening in the conversations. I'm loving what's happening in the assignments. It's an overall really great experience. And I'll tell you, my bias in education, my bias is not toward the grade, it's towards the learning. And are you learning? If you were to walk away from this class, I asked you, a month later, a year later, I say, what do you remember from that class? Would you have things that you remember that took place in this course? I certainly hope so. I certainly hope there'd be significant learnings that you take away that will stay with you. I still hear from students that go, man, that class, oh, that class. I've had students graduate and come back and say, oh, thank you so much. In fact, I have students all the time, and this isn't to brag about me, it's the content. It's the beauty of learning and the way that it helps to shape us, inform us, so that we can then be launched out to do things differently and better. And I love that. And it's always awkward when somebody comes and says, hey, professor, thank you so much for what you taught me. I'm like, you're welcome. Thanks. That's nice. Because it's not about me. I'm not here about me. It's not my ego that's being boosted. I'm here because I believe that this content that's being shared and taught to you, because this is what my life's work has been about, this idea of vocation, the last, 12 years now. Almost my entire working professional career has been about vocation, calling, and career development, because I know the impact that it has, not just on us personally, but on those around us when things are going well and we have good jobs. And maybe we don't have great jobs, but we are able to have an attitude that says, I'm so grateful for this job that's providing, or that's paying my bills, and I'm going to every day bring meaning to this job, even if it's a challenging job. And I think we have the opportunity to do just that. So I hope that what you're learning in this class is meaningful. I'm heartened, I'm encouraged, I'm challenged. It's just a really fun experience. And so thank you for what you're bringing to the class. Thank you for bringing all of you and allowing me the opportunity to speak into your lives and to bring this information. I was sharing with a friend the other day, education, and maybe I've mentioned this before, I believe should be as though we are laying before students. And this is why I don't do a lot of lecturing, right? The most you get from me per week is 15, maybe 20, 30 minutes. Because I don't think I need to lecture. I think I need to lay before you a feast of education. An education and learning feast of knowledge that's, it's like I unroll the tablecloth, and instead of there being food, there's books. And you get to pick these books up. You get to feel these books. You get to smell these books and read these books. And then there's thoughtful assignments that say, and now what do you do with it? And now what difference will you make because of what you learned? That's a powerful reality. And I think that's what we get to accomplish in this class. So thank you for taking part in that. One other thing that I'll say is that there's been a couple of hiccups. And so I don't know if you've noticed them, but there's been a couple of hiccups. I apologize for that. So I'm going to, for all of you in the class, no matter your involvement, participation, and so forth, give everybody 5 points of extra credit. Okay? So if you are that student that's going to get an A as it is, maybe you got 98%, it doesn't make it an A+. Okay, we're not allowed to give A pluses. The highest grade I can give is an A. Percentage-wise, you might look in the grade book and see that you have 103%. It's still going to be an A, but you can know that you've got 103%. Okay, so everybody gets 5 points extra credit. It's not really extra credit; it's just 5 points given. You didn't do anything for it. You didn't deserve it, right? I'm just giving it to you freely, right? You didn't earn it by doing something. Is what I mean. And so if hopefully that's some consolation that helps to make up for some of the hiccups along the way. So my apologies. It's never a perfect system. Canvas is never perfect. Sakai was never perfect. No LMS is perfect. No face-to-face class interaction is perfect. The thing I love about this is I have a student in another class. She had a baby on Tuesday, and she turned an assignment in this morning. So if she were to have been in a face-to-face class, that couldn't have happened, right? So, but she's still able to learn because she's kind of just laid up at home, and she's sitting there on her couch, and she's typing it up. So, and she's still in class, technically. So I love online learning for those purposes. So I take the good and the bad, and we keep moving forward. So anyway, hope you will do the same. Looking forward to the remaining assignments, the remaining weeks we have together. Again, if I can help in any way, please let me know. I'm here to support you and help you, and I love what's happening in this class. Have a great week, and I'll see you online.